Tonight, we step into the cobblestone streets of medieval Europe. The smell of fresh bread mixes with the stench of unwashed streets. Children chase stray dogs, merchants shout over each other, and right there in the middle of it all, a man stands locked between two heavy slabs of wood. His head and hands are trapped, exposed for all to see. This is the pillory, a punishment designed not to kill you, but to make you feel smaller than ever before. Before you settle in, if you enjoy these tales, consider liking the video and drop a comment below. Where are you listening from? And what's the time where you are? It's always fascinating to see who's joining us across the globe. Now, dim your screens, get comfortable, and let's drift into history together. The air in the town square is still, except for the gentle creak of wood in the morning breeze. The pillory stands in the center, a simple wooden frame, worn smooth by countless hands and faces over the years. It is not large, just two upright posts with a horizontal board across the top. The front split into two halves, hinged like a door. When closed, it leaves three round holes, one for the head, two for the hands. It doesn't look frightening at first glance. In fact, it almost looks too plain to be feared. But in a medieval town, this was one of the most dreaded places you could find yourself. The pillory was essentially a wooden frame on a post set in a busy public space. It had holes for your head and both hands, and once you were locked in, there was no sitting down, no turning away. You were stuck, standing, sometimes for hours, sometimes even days. Unlike prison, this wasn't about removing you from society. It was about putting you right in the middle of it, so everyone could see you, judge you, and if they felt like it, humiliate you. It was the community's way of saying, look at what happens to those who break our rules. Some versions had a platform so passers-by could get a better look at you. Others rotated so everyone got their turn seeing your face. It was not enough to simply stand there. The crowd was expected to participate. Some would jeer, some would laugh. Others would throw things, rotten vegetables, mud, even animal waste. A baker who cheated customers might be pelted with old bread. A liar or fraud might have a sign hung around their neck describing their crime. If the town was especially cruel that day, people might even strike the person, a slap to the face, a kick to the ribs. The punishment worked because it was public, and for many, the humiliation was far worse than any fine or prison cell. Imagine standing there for hours. Your neck and wrists ache from the awkward angle. The sun moves across the sky, but you cannot move with it. If it rained, you would get soaked. If it was cold, your teeth would chatter until your jaw hurt. The wood dug into your skin, and the smell of whatever the crowd had thrown clung to you. And the longer you stayed, the more miserable you became. Your neck and arms would cramp, your back would ache, and without food or water, dehydration could set in. There was no escaping it. The pillory turned time into its own kind of torment. The pillory was for crimes that society saw as dishonorable rather than outright violent. Petty theft, cheating at cards, spreading false rumors, selling bad goods, lying under oath. These were perfect pillory offenses. It was the court's way of saying, this person has broken trust with their community. You may treat them as you wish. It was cheaper than keeping someone in jail, and it was over quickly, in the sense that once you were released, you could walk away. Though, of course, the memory and the damage to your reputation could last for years. The pillory's power wasn't just in the physical strain, it was in the humiliation. And in medieval society, reputation was everything. To be publicly mocked was worse than existing itself. Your neighbors, your family, even your children's future could be stained by that one day in the pillory. Some people broke down crying. Others tried to stand proud, staring at the ground or smiling defiantly. That didn't usually work. The crowd had ways of breaking even the strongest spirit. One of the most famous pillory incidents happened in 1703 in London, when Daniel Defoe was sentenced for writing a politically controversial pamphlet. It was called The Shortest Way with the Dissenters, a satirical piece that mimicked extremist language to expose the fervor of high church Tories. He was so popular with the public that instead of throwing garbage, people brought flowers and sang songs in his honor. His time in the pillory became a triumph, with supporters buying his poem while a crowd drank to his health, turning the humiliating punishment into a demonstration of public support. But it was one of the rare cases where the pillory backfired for the authorities. Instead of humiliation, Defoe got a hero's welcome. By the 19th century, public punishments like the pillory were seen as barbaric. England officially abolished it in 1837, though some places in Europe kept variations of it a little longer. Today, the pillory mostly survives as a curiosity in museums or as a prop at historical fairs where people pose for photographs, smiling in a place where centuries ago no one would dare. And so, the pillory, a punishment of pain, yes, but mostly of pride. But what if humiliation wasn't enough? What if they wanted to stop your voice entirely, to keep you from speaking another dangerous word? In our next episode, we'll step away from humiliation and into a punishment that tested not the spirit, but the body itself, one that left scars in more ways than one. The stocks and shackles await.